Hi, third graders. I hope you're having so much fun with fractions like I am. So we're going to talk a little bit about equivalent fractions. So when you think about equivalent fractions, think about the word equal. So these are fractions that are equal to each other. They might not look equal, but they are equal, meaning they are the same size fractions. So I'm going to show you two ways that you can find and identify equivalent fractions. Okay, so start with 1/2. So we're going to use a fraction bar to show 1/2. Remember, this means 1 out of 2 equal parts. Just in case you forgot that, if this is 1 whole, then each part is 1 out of 2 equal parts. Okay. So we're going to look at 1/2, and we're going to look for equivalent fractions to 1/2. What you need for that is that you need to find fractions that you can put together that make exactly the same size fraction. So I'm going to start with an example. So let's say I want to see, okay, can I put thirds together to make it exactly the same size as 1/2? No, I sure can't. Look, it's too big. If I take 1/3 away, it's too small. Think of it like Goldilocks. It's not just right. So let me take those away. So let's try another one. Let me try fourths. Okay. 1/4. Oh my gosh, 2/4. So these are going to be exactly the same size. 1/2 is exactly the same size as 2/4. So thinking about that, 1/2 is equivalent to 2/4. But wait, there's more. Want to see if it's equivalent to something else? Spoiler alert, it is. Let's try fifths. We're looking for it to be exactly the same. No, fifths aren't going to work. All right, let's put those away. Let's try six. Let's see if those work. Not the same size as 1/6. Not the same size as 2/6, but wait a minute. It is the same size as 3/6. So think about equivalent fractions. A way you can think about it is that you are looking for a fraction that is exactly the same size. So 1/2 is equivalent to 2/4, which is also equivalent to 3/6. Spoiler alert, there are a lot of fractions that are equivalent to 1/2. I'm going to show you another way that you can look at these. Okay, so another way that you can look at these is using number lines, fraction number lines. So these are blank. I'm going to go ahead and go through and label these just to give a little review. So for this, remember when you label it, you need to look to see how many spaces there are. Don't count the notches, look at how many spaces. 1 space, 2 spaces. That must mean my denominator is going to be 2 because there are 2 spaces. So in order to start by writing my fraction lines, I'm going to go ahead and put my denominator. Since I know there's 2 equal spots, I know that each of these denominators is going to be 2. You can hopefully read that as a 2. I know my handwriting isn't great. So starting off, it's going to be 0 out of 2 because we haven't started yet. Now, as we continue walking, I've gotten to the first notch. This is 1 out of 2. Keep going. I've gotten to my second notch. 2 out of 2. And another way to say 2 out of 2 is 1 whole. I'm not going to make you watch me write the rest of these, but we are going to use this number line to take a look at looking or using number lines to find equivalent fractions. So I'll see you in just a second. All right, I'm back. I've labeled the number lines. So let's talk about another way that you can look at equivalent fractions. Okay, so for this one, or when you think about equivalent fractions, not only do they have to be the same size, another way that you can think about it is the distance from 0 to that point on the fraction number line. So really what you're thinking about is there a fraction that is in exactly the same point on the number line? So for this one, it takes exactly that amount to get to 1/2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look down and I'm going to see if there are any other fractions that are exactly in that same spot on the number line. So I'm going to just use a highlighter and highlight down. I'm going to start to go down to my one with the thirds. Down, 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 down. Do you see any fractions that are in exactly the same spot? No, because there's 1/3. There's 2/3, not in exactly the same spot. So let me continue down. Up. I think I found one. So we're going to keep going, 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 going. Oh my gosh, I have hit another fraction that is in exactly the same spot. 2/4 is exactly the same distance away from 0 to get to that fraction. So here I'm at 0, traveling exactly that amount. Oh my gosh, and 1/2 and 2/4, those then must be equivalent fractions. So just if you want to check it, look at that. 1/2 and 2/4, same size. It's just another way to look at it. You want to see something else kind of cool? There are actually a lot of equivalent, well, not a lot. There's some equivalent fractions here. So watch this. I'm going to use a different color. This distance to get from 0 to the end, or 2 out of 2, it is this distance to get from 0 to 3 out of 3. And it is this distance to get from 0 to 4 out of 4. Guess what? 2 out of 2, 3 out of 3, and 4 out of 4, those are all equivalent fractions. Those are all equivalent to 1 whole. 100 out of 100, also equivalent to 1 whole. So that's another way that you can look at it. Okay, last thing that we're going to do, we're going to take a look at how to solve some fraction problems. So here's an example. Which of the following is an equivalent fraction for 1/4? So there's one I can definitely cross off because I know it's not equivalent to that. Because remember, when you have a numerator that's smaller than the denominator, that means it's going to be less than 1 whole. Larger, numerator larger than the denominator, greater than 1 whole. This says 1 out of 4 equal pieces. This says 4 out of 1 equal pieces. Not the same thing at all. This is greater than 1. It's definitely not going to be that one. Okay, so now I need to look to see which of these is going to be equivalent to 1/4. For this one, I'm going to go ahead and use my online fraction strips so I can show you. Okay, which of the following is equivalent to 1/4? Well, I have a feeling it's not going to be this one because 2/4 would look a little different. So let's see. Here's 1/4. All right. Is 2/4 the same size as 1/4? You can see. Are these the same size? Nope, definitely not. So I'm going to go back. It is not 2/4. Let's look at another one. Which possibly is equivalent? 2/8. Let's see. All right. So I have 1/4. What's the same size? 1/8. 2/8. Oh my gosh. 1/4 and 2/8 are exactly the same size. That is going to be my equivalent fraction. Boom. All right. We're going to do one more because this is where it can get tricky. So there are times that you might totally know the answer, but the answer choice isn't listed, even though you're like, no, I know for sure that is the right answer. This is kind of where I think of it almost as like an escape room where it's like you have to look at it a different way and you need to find exactly the way that you're going to kind of escape and find the correct answer. So we're looking at this one. It says, which model of the fraction is not shaded? Well, I'm looking at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 equal boxes, 8 equal spots. Okay, what fraction is not shaded? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so 6/8 isn't shaded. That must be my answer. I don't see 6/8. So this is where I've given you a little hint over here. Start by thinking, what eighth of the model is not shaded? We just figured out 6/8 isn't shaded. I know 6/8. Look, I figured it out. I've just proven to you 6/8 is the answer, but it's not there. So now I need to find something that's going to be the same size as 6/8. So let's put up 6/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Let's start going through some of these. 2/8. I feel like it's not going to be because 2/8 is just like these two right here, but let's see. Is 2/8 the same size as 6/8? It is not. That's not going to be our answer. Let's go back. We'll cross that one off. 1/2. Could be. Let's see. Is 1/2 the same size as 6/8? It is not. Not going to be it. Let's cross that one off. All right, 5/8. Probably not because 6/8 and 5/8, those are going to be different. But let's try it just to check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are these the same size? No, you can clearly see they're not the same size, so cross it off. The last answer is 3/4, so I'm guessing that's gonna be it, but let's check just to be sure. All right, let's take these eighths away. 3/4. Here's 1/4. Here's 2/4. Oh my gosh, 3/4. Exactly the same size. So, for a question where you're like, no, 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 I know this is it. That's definitely the answer. And you don't see your answer choice listed, it's probably going to be an equivalent fraction. So for this example, 6/8 is equivalent to 3/4, which would be the correct answer. So just to sum up, equivalent fractions, they are located on the same point on a fraction number line, like the same distance away from 0, or equivalent fractions are going to be exactly the same size. We're going to keep working with equivalent fractions. Hopefully this was helpful for you. Can't wait to do more fraction things.